Okay, so I think we'll get started. Enough of people seem to be online. So first of all, I'd just like to welcome you all here being my home in Killarney. This is a first for the Republic of Work lunchtime learning, whereby we normally have physical meetings every Tuesday, and I've done a couple of those talks in the past. So given the circumstances that we all find ourselves in, it's the new way forward. It certainly will be the new way forward for the coming weeks anyway. So you're all very welcome. Just before I start into the talk, just to let you know a little bit about Republic of Work. I'm a member of Republic of Work. Our company, which is based in Killarney, we use one of their hot desk facilities up there, and there you can find out a lot of information from their website, which is republicofwork.com. They have a lot of upcoming talks over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be done via Zoom webinar, so you'll find all the details that you need from their website. A little bit about the talk itself here. I've given this talk a few times in a number of different venues. It's my first time doing it remotely without people in the room, so I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing that I can't see people's reactions. We'll see how that goes. I'll assume you're all smiling anyway and very interested. The talk is generally about just modern bookkeeping and using software to just have an efficient bookkeeping system for your business. Not only is it efficient, but it's online and it's in the cloud. And I think now more than ever, given the fact that most of us seem to be remote working, it's really important to have a bookkeeping and an accounting system that can manage through that. You know, if you've got folders in your office and you can't get into your office, or you need to share those folders with other people in your organization who are no longer in the building, then it becomes really difficult to keep things going. So I suppose now more than ever, it's important to look at this subject. So just starting off a little bit of my own background. So look, I'm a chartered accountant. I've been in practice with 20 years. As I say, down in Killarney, there's 10 of us working in the office down there, and we've recently branched into Cork. Well, not recently, about a year ago. So I'm there every Tuesday. So why am I giving the talk? I suppose it's because it's always been an interest of mine, technology. My dad was an accountant, and if I didn't do accounting in college, then I certainly would have gone on to do something with software or computer engineering or something. So it's always been a passion of mine. Certainly within the last 5 or 6 years, my work and my passion have started to merge, because in bookkeeping and in accounting, you can see the impact that technology is having on the bookkeeping and the accounting sector. And what I find really interesting about it is it's not just for big organizations. I think it's actually having an impact for smaller organizations, because the software that I'll talk about, they're affordable. They're on monthly plans. Generally, they're nothing more than $20 or $30 a month, and they make a huge difference to the way you work. So it's accessible for small business, and obviously there is no hardware costs. You don't have to put in upgrade servers or even have a server to do this, because they're all in the cloud. So we've been working that way with probably about 10 years now, and we have lots of clients who come to us just because we're familiar with working in this area. And it's based on my experience over the last number of years and what I've seen, what's worked and what hasn't worked for clients, that I'm bringing this talk to you today. Our firm's philosophy, and I think it's a philosophy for the talk really as well, is that it's a quote from Charles Darwin, and it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And by God, we've all seen huge change over the last 3 or 4 weeks, even the last week in our country, and particularly the way we work. And I think it's that philosophy, if we have that in our mind, for the duration of this talk, you realize that it's actually more of a mindset change that you need, rather than just going out and buying this software, because most people can do that. So that's what the message that I'll try to deliver home is that if you get buy-in from your team, the business owners, that this is something that can be implemented with the right mindset. So the overview of the talk, there's three parts to it, and there's also a question and answer function in Zoom. You'll probably see it on the bottom of your screen. So at the end of each of these, there's three parts to the talk. I'll pause just for a minute or two. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to virtually raise your hand in the question and answer section that's down the bottom of your screen. So we'll start with what I believe is the most important part of the talk, and that's the changing of the mindset and realizing the value in having up-to-date bookkeeping and investing in learning how to use these systems. The second part is the actual systems. We'll talk about what's available there, what difference they make, and how you go about implementing them into your workflow. And then finally, we'll take a step back and we'll have a look at, well, once these are in place, how does it look in your accounts office, and how does, what benefits is it going to bring to your business? So we'll start off with the pain points, right? I'm sure a lot of you know what bookkeeping pain is if you're a small business owner. Generally in small business, you either do this yourself, maybe a spouse or another family member is doing this on a part-time basis, or if you're a little bit larger, you might have an in-house bookkeeper who does also admin work. So in all of those examples, we've worked very successfully with clients to implement these sort of systems, and with the right training and guidance, you can implement them yourselves. So the bookkeeping pain points that most people have is it's boring work. It's heavy data entry work. You can see, like on the table there, that's a familiar sight in a lot of self-employed households. A couple of days before the VAT deadline, or dare I say it, a couple of hours before the VAT deadline. People scrambling for paper. Did I get that invoice off so and so because there's VAT on it? So that's the problem, is the rush to meet revenue deadlines, which if you're registered for VAT come around every 2 months. It's heavily paper-based, as you can see. The folder that's there, a lot of people working in the bookkeeping part of their business will have reams of paperwork and folders. And if you need to work from home, or even not that extreme an example, if you need to do something on a Saturday morning and you don't want to hop in the car and drive into the office or drive into wherever your business is based, you kind of have to do it if you're paper-based, because that's where everything is located. There's definitely no reliance on Excel in small and medium-sized businesses in Ireland. Excel is very error-prone. It's cumbersome. There's no real system to it. It's not that it's not intelligent. It's just an electronic spreadsheet, really. So an accounting system will always serve you much better than Excel. And also the issue is probably the disconnect between clients and their accountant. If they need short, sharp pieces of advice and quickly, as I've seen myself in my own firm in the last week here, without an online accounting system that an accountant can just log straight into from their desk, you really can't share the information, and the accountant can't give the advice based on the figures that are there. Whereas when you have an online system, it allows other key people and key advisors of your business into your financials, and they can give you a very quick insight, without leaving their desk, and talk you through maybe issues that your business are having or a certain sort of a plan that you want to put in place for the next month or two. And I think this is something that I get an awful lot. It's just that Irish business owners, they only have a general feeling of how the business is performing. They look at the bank account and they see, look, what's the balance in there? Is it healthy or is it not? And life is moving so fast now that is no longer good enough, really. Business can turn very, very quickly. So you need more information than just a general feeling of how the business is performing. So how can the technology help? Well, the data entry is the main pain point that I mentioned in the previous slide. So automation is key. So your online accounting software can talk to your online banking. It can read certain purchase invoices. I'll go through that in detail a little bit later in the talk. And so basically, people who find themselves typing in bank lines, or even going into your accounting system and exporting a CSV file and editing it and then importing it again, which is a clunky system. Modern accounting systems can avoid that. Typing in purchase invoices, the date, the VAT, the gross, the net, the due date, the invoice number, all that sort of low value but high time consuming work can really be reduced by implementing these software systems. Having access anywhere. Look, we're here. I am, as I say, in Killarney, giving a talk to people, throughout Ireland, It should be taken for granted now that you can get to your information really once you have a device that's connected to the internet. But many businesses don't have that luxury because, yes, they may have an accounting system, but because they're not using maybe a modern accounting system, or they haven't put in scans of their purchase invoices, they still don't have the full access. When they're logged in, they need to actually physically get their hands on the folders, and it's really easy to move away from that. And I'll go through how you can do that soon. Also, I'm a big believer, and so is our firm, on bite-sized bookkeeping. It never works to leave everything pile up until the end of the month and then, spend a day at your bookkeeping, or leave it pile up for 2 months and then, a couple of days before your VAT deadline, you're doing your accounts. It works best when it's done in bite-sized chunks. Half an hour here, an hour there. That's the best way to keep your books up to date, so that when you are looking for information in the middle of the month, you'll generally have it. You'll know who you owe money to. You'll know who owes you money and who's late paying you. And you don't have to wait until you do this, 3 or 4 hour exercise at the end of the month to find that. It's a single shared system between the client and the accountant, right? So the information exchange, I touched on that in the previous slide. It's really important to have that. But it may not necessarily even be your accountant, You may have an external bookkeeper who spends a day or two a week with you. It connects you with them. You may have a family member who is an accountant or who is a business advisor for you, and you can share your information with them as well, so that they're able to give you advice without having to actually meet up, sit down, crunch through the numbers, and then give the advice. They can look at the figures on the screen on your accounting system and give you pointers. And probably, I think, what's the most important thing, and will become the most important, like these earlier points they should be taken for granted at this stage, with the last number of years. But what's going to become more and more advantageous to small business owners is how your accounting system links with your other systems that you're using. It'll link with your tills. If you're selling online, it'll link with your online merch software, the engine that drives the sale. It'll link with your stock systems, your customer relationship management systems. So it's information exchange between all these systems will just make everything much more efficient, and again, eliminate duplicates. So what's the value of efficient bookkeeping? Okay, so bookkeeping it's not a low value necessary evil. A lot of people think that. It's actually the foundation of your company's financial health, and I think in crises like we're having at the moment, people begin to realize that, because very, very quickly they need to look at, well, how much cash am I going to burn through in the next 3 weeks, in the next 5 weeks? Do I need to look at my staff? Do I need to cancel other, standing orders or direct debits? So it's important to have things up to date, and it's only by regular bookkeeping that you'll have that information. Monthly key performance indicators are important for businesses as well. There seems to be maybe an over focus on monthly management accounts. They're not as easy to do, and you do need heavy involvement from maybe your accountant or your bookkeeper to produce a full quality set of management accounts. However, when you're looking at just KPIs, they could be things like sales this month versus last month, year-to-date sales versus year-to-date last year, gross margin analysis, my wages as a percentage of sales, debtors days, those sort of figures. If you're looking at them every month, you'll spot trends. You'll be able to know your business, much better than just having that general feel. And you can, once you have the statistics, you can measure it. It's a bit like what we're hearing from all the health professionals at the moment, is we need the statistics so that we can see, where the problem is going, when we peak, and that sort of thing. No different to your own business, knowing the metrics of your business, looking at them month after month, and you'll just get a better feel for what's working and what's not working. Simple issues then look like chasing debtors, So I mean, we've had clients before they've moved to these modern systems that it would actually take them a couple of hours work to figure out what money is owed to them at any point in time, and that really is it's no way to run a business when things can move so fast in the current economy, in the current climate. You really need to know at any point in time who owes me money, who's late, who maybe might have difficulty paying me, and how can I easily send them a statement or a payment reminder so that they can pay me. And the same thing with knowing who you owe money to. So your suppliers, you really need to know at a glance, who do I owe money to right now? Who's going to need a payment in the next week? Who's going to need a payment in the next 30 days? And then you start to plan for the cash flow in your business when you can do things like that. So that's the value of efficient bookkeeping, is it takes the stress out of the financial side of being a business owner, in that you know where things are, you know what you can do, you know what's going wrong, and you know maybe when to ask for extra finance and that sort of thing. At this point, I might just stop for a moment to allow for some questions and answers before we start talking about the actual applications that I do recommend. So if anyone has any questions, just please feel free to use the Q&A section down the bottom of the screen. Okay, we'll move on. If you do have any questions, just look, please feel free at any point to just type your question, and I'll try and deal with it. So if we actually look at some of the applications themselves that I'm recommending, is the first is look a good online accounting system. We're using Xero ourselves with almost 10 years in the office. That's not to say that this is the only one available in Ireland. There are quite good systems and household names like Sage, Surf Accounts, Big Red Cloud. There's quite a few of them, and I'd recommend, you know, having a look at them all and see which one suits you better. I'm referring to Xero because it's just the one that I'm more familiar with. The second piece of software, Receipt Bank, is hugely underrated. It's a piece of software that you can just take a picture of your purchase invoice with your phone, and Receipt Bank will read it, and it will put the details into Xero, which is your accounting system, along with a scan of that invoice. That's hugely powerful. That alone is worth doing this. And the other way of getting the invoices into Receipt Bank would be by email. You know, we all receive purchase invoices, you know, from our suppliers by email now. So you simply look at the PDF attachment on the email, and then if you're happy with it, forward it into the specific email address that you'll get in Receipt Bank. And the heavy lifting is done. I'll show you a screenshot in a minute of my own accounting system and what I mean by that, and how Receipt Bank delivers the information into Xero. But it does two main things. One, it efficiently gets the information into Xero with minimal data entry. And secondly, you now have a scan of all your purchases in Xero forevermore. So if I wanted to, within 2 minutes, I could find out what was my Vodafone bill in March 2016. And I can bring up a scan of it. So it's a really efficient piece of software. It doesn't cost a lot. I think it's about $15 to $20 a month for a subscription. Futurely is an add-on for Xero. It's a separate company, but it pulls all the information from Xero in terms of your debtors, when they're expected to pay you, your creditors, so when you need to you know, your due dates for the money that you owe in terms of your creditors, your wages, etc. And it presents things in a really easy to use graphical format. And we'll take a snapshot. We'll see what a snapshot of their screenshot. Sorry, we'll see what their screenshot looks like in a couple of minutes. Float is another fantastic app. Again, it's an add-on for Xero. It's cash flow forecasting. So, I mean, if you think about it, all the information is living in Xero. All your bank transactions with the last number of years, all your sales invoices and your purchase invoices. And systems like this can tap into all that information, and they can bring, you know, predictions of the average amount that's going to go into your bank account in the next 2 weeks, in the next 2 months, and the average amount that you're going to pay. It's a really clever piece of software. So for people who are, you know, trying to do manual cash flow forecasting with Excel sheets, this app will make a big difference. There's 2 payment apps as well. You probably have all heard of Stripe. Was set up by the Collison brothers from Limerick. It's now obviously a global company based in the US. So it allows you to take payment by credit card. Again, you can link this with Xero, and there's a link at the bottom of your sales invoice when you send it out. So customers can click on it, pay with the card, and you don't have any debtor time. Go Cardless is a fantastic direct debit software. So it allows you, you know, for businesses that are providing repeating sales to customers. So the same customer comes back to you month after month, or you might be on a monthly plan with them. This allows you to very efficiently set up a direct debit between you and your customer. Xero will send the invoice out. Go Cardless will collect it when on the due date directly from your customer. This is something I've actually added in this morning as I was preparing for the talk. It hasn't been in my previous ones, but it's Slack. It's a very agile communication tool for your business. I had used this with clients for the last year, but we'd never put it in our own office. But seeing as we're all working from home now, I put this in last week, and it just has made a tremendous difference to how we all communicate. It's like an instant message software, so you can send messages from your computer or your smartphone, but also you can have various channels in it with 3 or 4 members of the team can communicate together. You can call from within there, you can video call. It just really has made a huge difference to ourselves and our 10 team members as we work from home. So if you're struggling for a solution to manage a team that's working from home in the current environment, I'd highly recommend looking at Slack. It's made a big difference to ourselves. So if we take a look at Receipt Bank, and this is probably the most simple piece of software that I'm recommending. So I'm starting with this. So how does it work? You can see there's an application on your smartphone. You've just taken a client for lunch or a prospective client, and you pick up the tab and you put it on the table, take a picture and hit upload, and that's it. Receipt Bank itself will read the supplier, it'll read the date, the amount, and the VAT, and it'll put all that in your accounting system. Oftentimes we get the larger invoices. They tend to come in by email from our suppliers. So you'll get a specific email address. For example, our one is o'rourkeandco@receiptbank.me. So if your bookkeeper or yourself, if you're happy with the purchase invoice, just forward it into that email address, and Receipt Bank will do the rest, and it'll end up inside in your accounting system. The other thing that they've introduced in the last 2 years is called Receipt Bank Fetch. So, for example, you will have repeating invoices like your Vodafone bill, your Google Docs bill, maybe your LinkedIn subscription. A lot of times you're forced to log into a web portal to get these invoices, which is a clunky system. But with Receipt Bank Fetch, you put your login details into Receipt Bank, it remembers them, and it every month goes in and checks for your latest Google AdWords or Google Docs or Office 365 or any of those bills, and it puts it into your accounting system. So data entry is really saved. Now this is, I apologize, the screenshot is probably a little bit small, but if you look, this is how it ends up in your accounting system. So this is a real world example of a Vodafone mobile bill that I had, last year. And it's appeared inside my Xero. So I've done nothing with this. All I have done is I've got the email from Vodafone and I've forwarded it into Receipt Bank. So Receipt Bank has read the date, the supplier. It knows to put Vodafone inside and telephone and internet. It can read that there's 23% VAT on it. So all I really need to do is approve that. I don't need to do any data entry at all. And you can see that the scan also lives inside Xero. And this little icon here is telling me that there's one PDF document attached to it. So for example, like I said earlier in the talk, if I wanted to find my Vodafone invoice from March 2016, I just type it into the search box here, type in Vodafone, and down will pop a list of all my previous Vodafone bills. Very handy for businesses that have goods where they may need to check what price did a supplier charge me 2 years ago for this product. It's there at the end of your fingertips. Moving on to Xero itself then. So I suppose the key points of Xero would be, I always tell clients that there's 3 pillars to your accounting and your bookkeeping system. There's your sales, there's your purchases, and there's your bank reconciliation. And once you have the 3 of those right, you have a solid foundation and your figures are up to date. It's only a matter of interpreting those figures after that. So on those 3 items, what can Xero do? So you can draft sales and invoices from anywhere, from a tablet or a phone. It doesn't have to be in front of your PC at work. You can create repeating invoices. So if you provide the same service every month, like we do with bookkeeping, for example, we just tell Xero, repeat this invoice every month, without an end date, and it will create the invoice on the first day of the month. It will send it out to our clients, and if they're linked with Go Cardless, it'll collect the payment a number of days later. It can also do automatic invoice reminders, which is very handy. When you're chasing late payment, Xero can automatically be set up to send a polite email saying your invoice is now overdue. I mentioned earlier as well, you can have a link at the bottom of your invoice to allow your clients to pay you with credit card, or with Go Cardless, they can sign up for a direct debit system with you. On the purchases side then, using Receipt Bank, reading the purchase invoices. So the heavy lifting of your purchasing side is automated, and you're really just approving invoices in the system. And everyone will tell you when you're late with your VAT return, it's your purchase invoices that hold you up. But using this system means it's always up to date, and you're not chasing down invoices anymore. You can organize the monthly payments then. I recommend doing one payment run at the end of the month to suppliers, and you can send out a remittance invoice when you've made the payment. The bank feeds. So not only does it bring in all your bank transactions and starts matching, say if you have a lodgement of 2 grand, you can match that 2 grand off against one of your opening receivable invoices. But by the same token, if it sees a payment of €39.80 to Vodafone, and there's an invoice in there for €39.80 from Vodafone, it will suggest that, oh, is this paying that invoice? So again, your time on bookkeeping is really reduced. You can link with other banks as well, not just the main Irish pillar banks. You know, there's next generation banks here like Revolut, TransferWise, and Saldo. So you can link your bank account with them as well, and the transactions are brought in real time. Employees can do expense claims. Also, there's a function for timesheets and project management. So if you're a type of business that works on one project to the next, you can set up that project. Your employees can record their time against it, and you can record materials. So you know when to do progress billing, and you know what your over and under is at the end of the job. A budget is extremely important. I mean, we're all probably going to be thinking about budgets for the rest of the year, because we're all estimating, you know, a huge drop in income given the crisis that we have at the moment. So I think it's really important to just have a very basic budget in Xero at the start of the year. Even if you just look at your last 12 months sales for the previous year and put in them plus 5%, maybe minus 10, minus 20% now, and see how you're going in relation to that budget. And have a break-even budget. So you should know what your costs are each month, your main costs anyway, like your payroll costs, your rent, your loan repayments. And if you put that into Xero, you can run a report at the end of every month and see, well, am I over or am I under my budget? And then you can take corrective action. But the most important thing is it links with your advisors, be it your accountant or your bookkeeper, that they all have access to the same system. You know, that there is no more, you know, emailing back and forth of data sets so that the accountant can work on it and send it back. It's all worked on from the one system. And the important part as well, which I haven't mentioned up till now, is that you don't have to open up all of Xero to everyone. You can add a new user on Xero that maybe only have access to your sales, so they can't see your bank and they can't see your purchases. So that you can actually give restricted access to people. So that's one of the other advantages of having a cloud-based accounting system. I mentioned Futurely as well as another application worth considering. I'd recommend this for medium-sized business. Small business, you can probably get the reports you want from Xero. But if you've got a medium to large-sized business, this really gives very good graphical representation of how the business is doing. There is a steep enough learning curve in learning how to use it, but if this sort of information is really important to you, it's probably worth looking at Futurely. So then what do you do when you have up-to-date data? What is the end result from having this? You get, as I said earlier, monthly key performance indicators. And like the first month, you're not going to know everything after a month. It's really a trend, you know, and it's month after month. Once you've seen what's my gross margin, it's at 38, it's at 39, it's at 40. Say, great, it's growing. So I'm obviously purchasing more efficiently, or my pricing of jobs is getting better. The opposite of that is then if you see your gross margin starting to decline, you need to look at things. Maybe you are underpricing what you're you know, maybe the work that you're tendering for. Budgeting, which I've already mentioned, is very important as well. I think everyone really should start the year with a roadmap, and the only roadmap from a financial point of view is a budget. So what do you expect to sell each month for the coming 12 months? What are your main costs going to be for those coming 12 months? And I'd recommend, you know, it's worth like trying to get time with your accountant, sitting down with them for an hour or two and getting their feedback to help you get that in place, and revise them now as well. Given the current climate that we're in with sales falling through the floor, you need to revise your budget and see, well, look, how do I get to the end of the year? What's the minimum level of sales I actually need to meet? The cash flow projections are important as well. You know, just look at who owes you money, when are you likely to get paid, who do you owe money to, who can you ask for maybe a break. We've been given advice to talk to our banks at the moment, maybe look for a 3-month payment holiday. All those sorts of things make a difference to your cash flow over the coming months. And stress-free VAT returns. I mean, that's the one thing I have feedback that I get from clients a lot is it's not so much the end of year return, because that, I mean, literally obviously only happens once a year, but it's the fact that it's every 2 months as a VAT return. So there's a constant obligation on you to keep things up to date. But if you have efficient systems, you can easily do that. and review it regularly. There's no point in having this information there and you don't run the reports in Xero and get a feel for your business. So that'll be a key piece of information, is to review it regularly. So the overall benefits that you'll see is less time. I mean, maybe more time than we ever had in the last 2 weeks, and that with the lockdown. But when things do get back to normal, we're all quite busy. The world is a very busy place these days. And if you get time back and less time spent in bookkeeping, you have other areas that you can certainly get more, there's a better reward for an hour that you're going to spend in your business in terms of planning for the future, rather than just data entry and bookkeeping. You can do it anywhere and any time. The anywhere is important nowadays, because you have really free access to your systems, and you can keep billing clients, you can keep checking on your bank, you can keep checking who you owe money to, and you can do it anytime. So you pull out your smartphone and you can do a quick 20 minutes, work. You can do all these things: bank reconciliation, approving invoices, sending invoices out from your phone. And for a lot of time poor business owners, that's the best, that's probably the best part of it. Like we've got a lot of trades people who, they're in the van the whole time. They're waiting for a job to start, or they're home in the evening. They just sit in the van for half an hour and do a quick, bit of their bookkeeping on the tablet. And it's that bite-sized bookkeeping that can make a difference. And you're meeting the deadlines, peace of mind. There's less stress there, because you have the figures ready. You can file your VAT return next week. And you just get a better feel for your business. Your finger is on the pulse when you know what your KPIs are and how they move each month and what are the trends. And making business decisions then. There's a lot of really difficult business decisions being made this week and in the coming weeks, with regards to maybe cutting staff hours or whatnot, or maybe not, discontinuing a certain line of sales. You can make that decision with much more confidence when you have up-to-date bookkeeping. And look, this is just a picture of me taken last summer at Ross Bay Beach in County Kerry. There's me doing my bank reconciliation on the beach. You really can do it from anywhere. So look, that's really the end. I'm open to questions and answers. As I said in the beginning of the talk, there's a function in the bottom of your screen if any of you would like to just pop in a question, and I'll take a look at it. Contact details are there as well. Look, if anyone wants to follow up with an email with a query with me, I'll do my best to come back to you on it. Also, I believe this talk is being recorded, so we're going to share it with all the participants and anyone else maybe who wasn't able to make the talk. And if you do have any follow-up queries looking at this talk at a later date, please do feel free to reach out. I'll just give a moment or two in case anybody has any questions or feedback or anything. It's a lot easier to do this when you're doing the old-fashioned talk in the room. Okay, so look, I'll just finish up with the final thoughts, and I suppose this ties in with what I was saying at the beginning of the talk about the Charles Darwin quote about, the ability to change being better than strength or intelligence. Like this is going to happen within the next 12 months. It's only a matter of time before Xero write an application for Alexa, and you can just say, how much VAT do I owe next month? And it'll give you the example. Okay, I see a question coming in there. Okay, there's a question here about Xero handling VAT on a cash receipts basis. The Xero can run your sales VAT report on a cash receipts basis, but as you know, in Ireland, purchases is always on an accruals basis. So you need to run two VAT returns, one for the sales and one for the purchases, and that's how you fill in your VAT return. In general, with all our Xero clients, we actually do the VAT return for them. They keep the information up to date on Xero throughout the month, and then we run the return at the end of the 2-month period. I see there's a question from John there. John, is HubDoc the same as Receipt Bank? HubDoc has been a new addition to Xero. They were a Canadian company that Xero bought out last year, so they've integrated it into their product actually just this month. Yes, it has been a competitor of Receipt Bank, and it in theory does the same thing. We've been using Receipt Bank for 7 or 8 years now. We're slow to move from it, but that said, because HubDoc is now baked into Xero, we're certainly going to try it over the next couple of months. And if it does the same thing as Receipt Bank, it would be the logical one to use, seeing as it's actually within the system. So it's kind of watch this space on HubDoc at the moment. It's a little bit new to change over at this point. Okay, everyone, that seems to be all the questions for now. I'd like to thank you for your time. It was hopefully you've got some value out of it. It was a new experience for me talking to a screen with nobody else in the room, but I think it's something that we're all going to have to get used to for the next couple of months. So look, wishing you the very best in getting through these very difficult times we find ourselves in the country, and thank you for your time today.